The Raiders news that you need to know today coming at you from Mitchell Renz, host of the Raiders Report. Appreciate everyone tuning in to today's episode. There are two big things that I really want to sit here and discuss. The Raiders, they ended up keeping one coach. I made a video bright and early this morning around Tom McMahon. We'll talk about him here in a little bit. Did the Raiders end up keeping another coach? Because there's somebody that's on the roster from their coaching staff last season that I really like, and I've spoke about his name a few times. We're going to bring up another coach that maybe the Raiders are trying to keep on the staff due to some of the rumors that are going on out there. And then the way that we're going to end today's show is Pete Carroll spoke about the Russell Wilson rumors, linking Wilson, Carroll to the Raiders. At the very end of today's show, I'm going to tell you what Pete Carroll had to say about it. But this is why you subscribe. I want you to turn on those notifications. Anytime Raiders news happens, I promise you this, I'm going to do my best to keep you up to date, and Raiders news happens every single day. So guess what? If you didn't see anything today from me, it's because you're not subscribed. So let's go to the very first thing that I spoke about earlier this morning, and it's around the Raiders keeping special teams coordinator Steve McMahon. I'll be honest, this is going to be one of those moves where I'm not going to be overly excited. I'm not going to be overly depressed about it. He's the special teams coordinator. I know Raider fans really fall in love with that position because of Rich Bisaccia, and I'll always have a special place in my heart for Papa Bisaccia. But when the Raiders brought in McMahon back in 2022, I'll be real, didn't really like it. You go back and you look at a lot of his special teams coordinator jobs, and those units weren't all that great. The reason why I am okay with it is because Carroll did say on Monday that he plans on keeping certain members of the coaching staff. And quite frankly, we have already a lot of potential moving on parts, right? 28 players. 28 players are going to hit NFL free agency, which means we're going to have a lot of open spots, which means the more coaches we move on from, the more coaches that we're going to have to replace. So one of the things that Carroll said, which I liked on Monday, was this. I'm hoping that we can maintain some of the terrific coaches that are on the staff too, so we can have the benefit of the insights that they bring and the continuity that they can generate for us. So it's a combination of people that we're looking for. The continuity is the key word there, and to me, that's why the Raiders decided to keep Tom McMahon. So I want to know from the nation down below, and if you guys can, give me a grade, A, B, C, D, or F. This is going to be the very first YouTube ad break that y'all get hit with on today's show. While that ad is playing, I want you to scroll on down and give me your answer. Grade the Raiders keeping Todd McMahon. I'm going to go give this a C grade, and I think it's a good move. Can it be bad? Of course it can. Is it a great move? No, I don't really see that happening. The reason why I'm going to go give this a C grade is because I hope that McMahon doesn't get a long-term deal. And the only reason why that I say that is because if you're going to say continuity, well, then to me, mentally, that means that you got to tie McMahon with the Raiders special teams or Raiders special teamers. And Amir Abdullah, free agent, DJ Turner, free agent, but those aren't the guys that I'm talking about. The players that I'm talking about are AJ Cole and Daniel Carlson, excuse me. The reason why that you got to talk about those two guys is because when you look at their contracts, I would want Steve McMahon to be tied with those contracts. And both of those players only have 1 year left on their deal. They both have $0 million guaranteed. I want to say AJ Cole's somewhere around $3.3 million. Daniel Carlson's at about $4.3 million. But again, both of them have $0 million guaranteed. If you remember when the Raiders first named Rich Bisaccia the interim head coach, his first order of business was he extended AJ Cole, he extended Daniel Carlson, and then he also showed Trent Sieg, the old long snapper at the time, some love. That's kind of the way that I would want the Raiders to operate underneath their special teams unit, where Tom McMahon, you want to bring him back for a year? Totally fine. But I'm going to bring Tom McMahon back on a 1 year deal, make him prove it, make Daniel Carlson, make AJ Cole prove it again, and then if you want to bring in, AJ again, which, let's be real, you should absolutely give AJ Cole an extension. Daniel Carlson, age 29, if he has another little bit of a bad year compared to what he did the season before, then I'm okay with letting him go. But the reason why I'm going to give this a C grade is because the special teams unit is a good unit. It's not a great unit. There's some really good pieces on there, like AJ being the best punter in the NFL. But at the end of the day, when you look at the contract structure, I think it makes sense to keep McMahon for 1 year, reevaluate it next season because you're going to reevaluate your place kicker, your punter, and it makes sense then to also look at the special teams unit. So The only other thing that I'll say that I want McMahon to do this offseason and do a better job of is going out and finding a kick returner, going out and finding a punt returner. The Raiders need to be a little bit more dynamic in those two regards, I would say, and it's been a while since they've had, I would say, a true dynamic returner. And it makes me go back to the one Raiders-Broncos game in Harris when he ended up taking that one back for 6. I mean, that was an incredible thing. I can actually remember sitting in my couch on my chair. That was before I did watch parties, and I watched that game live. I was at my dad's. It was unbelievable. But to me, the Raiders, again, you got to go find somebody in special teams. You got to go out and find somebody that can help you out in terms of kick returning and punt returning. Coming up next here, are the Raiders keeping a certain staff member? Again, I'm somebody that looks at rumors. I'm not sitting up here reporting the news, but I do think that you can look at rumors and you can connect some dots, and then you can kind of see where it's going. Before I get into that, though, today's show sponsored by PrizePicks. It's the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award and winnings. PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. I mean, we only got one game left, and it's the big game. And the big game is almost here. So to me, it's now or never. Don't miss out on the last game of the season with PrizePicks, the best place to win cash while watching the big game. PrizePicks is also giving away a free pick for the big game. If you're wondering what that pick is, it's Patrick Mahomes' 0.5 passing yards. You're going to watch the game anyway. Don't sit up here and tell me that you're not going to do it. If you're a football fan and you're going, I'm not going to watch the big game because Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are in it again. Stop being lame. Be an adult. You know you're going to watch the game. So you might as well try to make a little bit of money off Patrick Mahomes anyway because he's going to throw it for more than 1 yard. Then if you want to consider maybe, Saquon Barkley, 1 touchdown. Maybe Jalen Hurts pass yards, rushing yards. You can go in a bunch of different ways. I will end up putting a lineup in. I don't actually have one yet. I'll wait the closer and closer to the big game it actually gets. But if you want to play, if you plan on watching the game with Chugs and I, download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Download the app today. Use code CLNS instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. So let's get into the coach that I almost wonder if the Raiders are retaining. And one of the guys that, I remember seeing a report that Ricky Manning Jr. was in attendance at the Pete Carroll press conference. And I'm not going to lie, when I see a name being at the press conference of Pete Carroll, my initial thought is that coach is going to stay. And I get it. There's a lot of coaches that are going down to Mobile, Alabama. There's a lot of scouting coaches that are moving some different parts right now due to, Reese's Bowl again, the East-West Shrine game, all that kind of fun stuff. But when somebody's actually at the press conference of when your head coach gets introduced or the GM, the first light bulb that should go off in your mind is that coach staying? I would imagine this. If the coach didn't think that he was going to have a chance to stay, he's not going to be at that press conference. The fact that Ricky Manning Jr. is there, that's a good sign to me. This is one of the younger coaches that the Raiders have. I'm a big fan of. Was the cornerback coach last season for the Silver and Black. Has worked a lot with DPs in the past. But the reason why, again, this is why the light needs to go off. The light needs to go off because I do a lot of homework, and I'm not sitting up here going that I know everything that there is to know about the Raiders. It's not true, but I am somebody that likes to connect dots. So I hear a report around Ricky Manning Jr. being at Pete Carroll's press conference. The first thing that I do is I go, all right, is he still on the staff? Is there a connection there with Carroll? Why is he there? Well, he has a connection with Carroll. So in 2016 and 2017, he was the assistant DB coach in Seattle. The defensive coordinator for the Seahawks at that time was Chris Richard, and that's, he's the DB coach right now in Jacksonville. Could be an interesting name to consider if maybe the Raiders want to bring in a brand new DC if you don't bring in Rob Leonard, or if you don't keep Rob Leonard, I should say, or if you don't keep Patrick Graham, because as it stands right now, Rob Leonard and Patrick Graham are the only 2 other people that have interviewed for the DC job. But reminder, the Raiders also brought in Carl Scott for an interview, who's 39 years old, and also has worked with the Seattle Seahawks DBs in the past. Also, interesting thing about Scott, he is the only member from the Pete Carroll regime that remained on the Seahawks when new head coach Mike Macdonald ended up coming in. Mitch, where are you getting with all this information? I'm going with all this information is that the Raiders want continuity. The Raiders want stability. So the fact that Ricky Manning Jr. was at the press conference and he has ties with Pete Carroll, that means something. The fact that the Raiders also brought in a defensive coordinator candidate that has Pete Carroll ties, that means something. The fact that Rob Leonard and Patrick Graham know this defense like the back of their hand, that shows continuity. So to me, the Raiders, again, are showing you that they have a plan. And based off of what I think that they're going to do, they know that they have talented coaches on the defensive side of the football. If it was me, I would try to keep as many of those coaches on defense as I can, and I'm going to reshape the offense, which there's a lot of Raider fans sitting at home going, all right, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I'm hoping that's what Tom Brady, Mark Davis, John Spytek, Pete Carroll are all doing. But the good news, I would say, is Ricky Manning looks like he's going to be back for the silver and black. Next thing coming up here on the show is Pete Carroll. He addresses the Russell Wilson rumors, and I was sitting late last night, and I had somebody from the Rich Eisen show reach out to me, and they were like, what do you think about this? Talk to me about it, and you can talk about it on your show, which, again, Rich, appreciate, you reaching out. Anybody from the Rich Eisen show needs a host here on the Raiders Report. I can confidently say I don't think there's a person alive that can talk about the Raiders better than I can. It's not a knock on anybody. It's just nobody does it as often as I do, so I get the practice to do it. So we'll get into those Pete Carroll rumors here in a moment around Russell. But for those that do not know, I am going to be live tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific. It's going to be a fun Tuesday style of a show. I know it's Thursday. We're going to give you 3 segments, and then the final hour is going to be Raiders Happy Hour. And we have a OG. His name is Venthrak. He's a long time watcher. We have a little club here called Mount Raidermore, and he's going to have a shot to get a Mount Raidermore. And based off conversations I've had with him and other members that are crazy donors on our channel, tomorrow's going to be a fun show. So hopefully y'all tune in. So here's what Pete Carroll had to say. And again, he was asked, what's going on with Russell Wilson? Is he coming to the Raiders? And with all the speculation out there, I can't really blame their TV show or the Rich Eisen show. Amy Trask and I forget the other woman's name, which I apologize, but they end up doing a show. And, they asked Pete this, and Pete said, it's so early, we're just in the midst of trying to find the puzzle pieces, not even putting them together yet, so I can't even say free agency hasn't come yet. I promise you, if you're a great competitor, you're not letting options go away from you. I know Pete's going to say that, and the reason why I put this at the end of the show is because I know there's not a lot of meat and potatoes to what Pete said. But what Pete did say is he also didn't say, no, it's not going to happen. And the fact that he said that it's not going to happen, I think also what Pete's saying there is, all the cards are on the table. And when you have all 92 or something million in salary cap, when you have 12 total draft picks, when you have 28 pending free agents, when you have new coaches coming in, there's going to be a lot of change. And as a competitor, you got to be flexible with that change. But with it being said now, Russell Wilson, I don't know where he stands, but there's still already a lot of rumors circulating around Russ. If you haven't seen the video that I put out earlier, today, it's around a lot of the quarterback rumors from Pete Carroll, but also it's around the top 5 quarterbacks that I could see the Raiders trying to bring in next offseason. Russell Wilson does make that top 5 list. All right, y'all, before I get out of here, we are talking a lot about defense, and while I was recording this video, the Baltimore Ravens and assistant head coach / pass game coordinator Chris Hewitt agreed to mutually part ways. Hewitt's been on the staff since 2012, but both sides felt timing was right for a fresh start. I find this interesting because, 1, he's been with that organization since 2012. 2, we know Jed Hughes and a lot of the people that the Raiders are trying to bring in, they want to bring in people that have been a part of staff a long time. And Ozzie Newsome, I get it, front office, it's a little bit of a different regime, but the Baltimore Ravens have been a well-oiled machine for quite some time. Has that Baltimore defense struggled at times? Yes, it struggled this season, but once they put Kyle Hamilton back there at safety, that looked like a very, very competent defense. The reason why that I find it interesting is because they were able to make the switch. They were able to make the correction. And when you go back and you look at a lot of those great Seahawks defenses, they always had a good versatile safety in somebody like a Earl Thomas. Now, again, I'm comparing Kyle Hamilton to totally different defenses than what the Raiders had. But Chris Hewitt is a name for, if I'm the Raiders and I'm looking at DC candidates, he's a name that I would at least consider to potentially bring in for an interview because he's another well-respected name. But the fact that both of them have mutually agreed to part ways tells me that he's probably has another job that he's eyeing and that he probably has a potential defensive coordinator job that he's eyeing. So I wanted to be able to talk about that in case there's a connection there, because for somebody to be a part of that regime for as long as what they have been and they're not making many changes to the coaching staff, that tells me he probably has another opportunity. Who knows? Maybe it's with the Las Vegas Raiders. All right, y'all, I got to get on out of here again. Appreciate everybody for tuning in to today's show. And actually, at the time that I'm watching this right now, I just saw Vinny just ask Jackson Dart on the possibility of him reuniting with JPJ. Sounds pretty interesting. Obviously, he says a lot of the right things. He's excited if he got the opportunity to do it. But I didn't even know they were high school teammates. That's pretty cool. Actually, that's a lie. I did know that. All right, y'all, I got to get on out of here again. Appreciate everybody tuning in. We're about to get a really, really wicked storm here in Dallas, so I got to make sure that I get home before that happens. Appreciate everyone tuning in again tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific, here on the Raiders Report. For even more content around the silver and black, make sure you click the subscribe button right here. Us at Chat Sports, Raiders Report, we're always hustling. For even more content, this might be the video I was talking about earlier about the Pete Carroll rumors and the top quarterbacks. If it's not, it's definitely going to be here. So check out one of these videos and make sure you're subscribed for Raiders videos every single day.